welcome to the 12th episode of the Katknits podcast. This is a monthly podcast where I chat about what I made in the month before. So we are now in December, which means I'm going to chat about what I made in November 2022. And what I mentioned last month is I really want to focus these last 2 months on wrapping up any existing projects and kind of touching up, fixing projects that I've already done that need just those last little details done. I can't believe that it's almost the end of the year. I'm excited because Vancouver actually is going to get a little tiny bit of snow next week. I think it's supposed to snow almost 4 or 5 days in a row. It's been awesome. This is the first year that I've had enough sweaters, hand knit sweaters to wear, and they're just so warm. I didn't appreciate how warm a real wool sweater, maybe mixed with a little bit of alpaca or mohair, just how toasty it is. This is what I'm wearing right now is the Magic Mountain cardi, and it was done through the through the fall knit along last year. I did it in 2021 with knitcollage. I have been wearing this whenever we kind of go out for a fancy dinner or out with friends. I've been throwing this on top as a jacket just because it is such a thick wool and it's warm enough. And it's also big enough that I will wear a sweater on underneath this and then throw this on top. I've been loving this jacket. Well, it's a sweater, cardigan, but I've been using it as a jacket. It's been great. Like I said, I've been kind of pulling out all those hand knits. And I'm excited because I'm going to knit myself, more sweaters in the new year, but also some gloves, some more socks. And yeah, maybe I'll be able to do a whole outfit, head to toe, in my hand knits. Maybe that'll be a goal that I need to get to. Probably not, because I don't think I want to knit any pants or skirts or anything like that. Anyways, like I said, I was kind of working in the next 2 months. I kind of want to work on wrapping up stuff. So I finally sewed on the buttons to this sweater. And aren't they just adorable? They're also from knitcollage. I ended up purchasing them when I got the kit. And I think I had this sweater done for probably a year before I sewed on the buttons. I was just wearing it open before, but I love the buttons and I'm very happy about it. I sewed them on using one strand of mohair and then one strand of fingering weight yarn. And I don't know if that looked any better, but I just find it really cute to kind of have that little bit of fuzzy and a little bit of texture in the button itself. One thing, I've always kind of considered myself a detail-oriented person, but based on the number of mistakes I frequently make in my knitting, it's making me reevaluate that definition for myself. But one of the things I did is this cardigan needs 5 buttons and I purchased 4. So I am missing a button, and since the buttons I think are like super inexpensive, but the shipping would be so expensive, especially since I live in Canada and knitcollage is an American company, I only have 4 of the 5 buttons, and I'm not really planning on purchasing the 5th until I decide to purchase more yarn from them. So I guess you can see that the bottom, I decided to go, it was either the top or the bottom that was gonna get no button. And I think most people don't look at the bottom of your sweater, maybe. It's also kind of nice, you have it undone and it gives a little bit of flair. I don't know, I'm just talking myself into it. But long story short, I just have the top 4 buttons sewn on, and that 5th button, well, it might never materialize. The other thing that I did to wrap up is I had 6 works in progress, and then I ended up completing 2 of those, but I was a bit not the best. I made a bad decision. I actually ended up casting on another project. So we were decreasing our works in progress, and then we added one. So the 2 that I did finish, the first one is the Baby Surprise Jacket by Elizabeth Zimmermann. And this one I had very similar things left. I still need to sew on the buttons. So I sewed on these beautiful red pearl buttons, which I think I like choosing when you have something that's multicolored like this, like choosing one of the accent colors I think can be really pretty. So I sewed these on, and for these I used a darning thread, and I also ended up seaming up the sides, and I used darning thread for that. I used a black darning thread, and I used the same technique that I talked about last week, which was the mattress stitch. It was a lot harder to do with garter. I definitely think when you have just, you know, plain stockinette, it's quite clear where the edges are. But I'm happy with it. This is another project that's kind of been sitting around for a year that I just didn't complete. My original plan was to sew a hood on, and that was knit a hood. And I decided against it. I think I'm going to knit, I'm definitely going to knit another one of these, and then I'll make sure to have enough yarn. I really don't think I had enough yarn to do a hood with this, so I'll buy a new one with enough yarn and then do a hood then. These are my absolute favorite sweaters to knit. They're knit in one piece, and the increases and the decreases are what give the jacket the shape. That's also why it's kind of like a T, because you do some decreases and then you do some increases and then you fold it. And it's called the baby surprise jacket because it really is a surprise with how it all folds together. If you haven't knit one of these, I just think they're so much fun to knit and definitely recommend it. It's also a quick project because it's for a baby. You can now purchase this pattern individually from Schoolhouse Press. I'll link everything down below. Everything I talk about will be in the description. I can't say enough good things about this pattern. I love her personality. I bought a couple of Elizabeth Zimmerman's books, and she's just got a really witty, quick sense of humor. One of the funny things, I remember when I was reading it, she was talking about how always bring your knitting with you. And then that way, if the conversation gets a little dull, you can just focus on your knitting. She said it a lot more eloquently than that, but definitely check her out if you haven't heard from her before. So this was the first work in progress that I finished. And then the other one, which has also been kind of haunting me, is my second Pacific Crest hat. I wanted to knit a second one in the largest size. I ended up increasing all the sizes in this hat pattern, and originally I was a little hesitant with my color choice. I ended up knitting only from my stash, and I only had 2 DK weight yarns to choose from, so that's how I chose the blue and the orange. And the blue is both the blue and the orange, they're DK weight yarns. The blue is they're both from Sweet Georgia as well. The blue is the silk mohair, and then the orange is the Superwash merino. And then I held that with a fingering of the Uschitita, I think it's called. It's a Netherlands yarn, a single, and it's a variegated, so it's got little bits of like pink and bright orange and kind of like reddier oranges. And I think that marling kind of gives it some deepness. So I'll throw this on. The nice thing about this larger size is it really allows for a deeper cuff. But yeah, I'm super happy with how this hat turned out. I love hats that are like tight to the head, so I'm not a big fan of when you have like kind of that little bit of extra fabric on the top. I will likely be giving this hat away, which is kind of sad because it is my my first design, but I want someone to enjoy it. Well, I would enjoy it too, but I already have one. I don't need to. I also just realized I forgot to mention this yarn was knit, the baby jacket was knit with the Noro Ito yarn. It's 100% wool, and it's, the color, self-changing color. And it comes in these giant 200-gram balls. I love their yarn. I was always hesitant to use Noro yarn. It is a little bit of a more rustic yarn, so not nearly as soft. And you can even, I don't know if you can tell, like this is so much more drapey. Merino tends to be quite drapey, and then when you add alpaca to it, it makes it even more drapey. Whereas this is more of like a stiff, which is nice because this is a jacket. So I think it makes sense to have a stiffer, denser fabric. And then for a toque, you know, you want it soft, warm, drapey. So those were the 2 items that I finished, my works in progress of. And then the one that I casted on that I was not supposed to do, but I couldn't resist, is the Bear Paw Socks by Andrea Mowry. Every year she does, around American Thanksgiving, she does a knit-along, and it's a pair of socks. I actually have done the last 2 years, so 2021 and 2020. 2020 I just knit not even close to when the knit-along was, and then in 2021 was the first year I tried to participate in the knit-along. Tried being the operative word. I don't think I even got through 1 sock in the 4 days. It's not a holiday here in Canada like it is in the US, but even then I struggle with knit-alongs just getting it done. I think I'm a slow knitter. Oh, I know I'm a slow knitter. I think that's because I throw rather than pick. I think I need to learn how to pick, because then you can move like a speed demon. The nice thing about this socks is these are DK weight socks. So I thought I had more of a chance because bigger needle, less stitches, the sock would just be done quicker. And it was. I did manage to finish 1 sock. So today is the Sunday and I've got 1 sock done, which is pretty impressive. So I knit this whole sock between Wednesday and Sunday. Unfortunately, what I tend to do is knit the socks too long. So as you can see, I have a size 7 to 7.5 foot. This is huge. It's way too big. The nice thing is, since it's ribbing, like it stretches this way when I put it on, I would say it's only probably maybe ½ inch too long, which isn't too bad. And the other thing that's a little unfortunate is I don't know if this type of heel suits my foot. I have right here, there was too much extra fabric. When I wear it, I've kind of got like a little bump when I put it into a slipper of like extra fabric, like right here, which makes me think that perhaps this part of the sock is just too wide for my foot. One thing I could do is go down a size. So Andrea Mowry made this pattern in, I think it was 11 sizes. Yeah, 11 sizes, which is wonderful. It means that there's a size to fit everyone. And really, if I had just gone for the baby ones, I would have been able to finish it and participate in the draw. But I wanted to knit something for me. Unfortunately, I made them too long, so now I don't know if I'm gonna have to give these away or if I do get to keep them. I hope I get to keep them. I'm going to keep them. I think the next pair I'm going to do, or the next sock, I'm gonna knit just like maybe 3 rows shorter and see if that fixes the issue for me of just having a little bit of too much extra fabric. I mean, there's too much extra fabric at the toe, which makes sense because they're just a tiny bit too long. But I don't know if I just kind of pull everything forward, if that'll fix the issue here. And this sock is named after the Bear Paw sock yarn by Farmer Daughters Fibers, which is based in Montana. And that sock yarn has yak in it. And that comes in a fingering and a DK. I would love to buy some of that sock yarn. They do a sock yearly, what is that called? Where every month for a year you get a new sock yarn, and they do a full skein plus a 20-gram skein of colors that go well together. I was very, very close to signing up for it, but then I remembered that I have about 6 or 7 skeins of sock yarn waiting for socks that I'm very excited about. So I don't think I need 12 more skeins, especially at the rate that I knit socks. So I held off, but I think I'm gonna save purchasing that sock yarn as a little bit of a treat, maybe partway through the year, or I don't know, we'll see. So I resisted the urge to buy more yarn. Unfortunately, I have still spent money on knitting this month. It's a problem. I have a problem, but I'm conscious of it, and that's the first step. The next step is, making decisions that actually stop the purchasing. But this is 2 skeins of fingering, and what I did is I had this beautiful shawl that I've had. It was actually my first project that I did that was bigger. Or I guess it's my first multi-skein project that I ever did. And I don't remember. I'll look it up and put it in the video as well as put it below what the design of this shawl is, because I can't remember now. But it is a color fade shawl, and I made this in the Jilly Dream in Color yarn, which is 100% merino, single ply. It's super soft and drapey, and the colors transition well, but I don't wear shawls, at least, and this style, it's a little more bohemian, and I mean, this is kind of 70s bohemian, but I tend to wear more, I don't want to say like preppy is maybe the wrong word, structured, like single colored items. Actually, I just wear a lot of like grays, whites, and then solids. And this just doesn't go with my wardrobe. And I've been wanting to unravel this for years now, I think. Well, I mean, okay, this maybe a year or two. And I finally did it. So I ended up unraveling one side, which is what the first sock is knit from. And then I'm gonna unravel the other side, but these are my little balls of fingering. And I used it to knit a sock. So I'm excited that I repurposed this yarn. I finally did it. I'm also curious because these are my first socks that I've made without using a sock yarn. And there's two kind of no-nos that I've done with this yarn. Is one, it's single ply. In theory, that means that it should pill more, wear through quicker more. Also, it's 100% merino. I don't have that nylon to strengthen the sock. There is, now I'm holding it double, so I don't know if that's gonna kind of act almost like multiple ply, like just really thick single plies. So I might kind of, just because they'll be twisted, maybe that'll help reinforce it, but I am really curious to see how this wears. I've been so conscious to always buy sock yarn, and this will be my first pair of non-superwash, single ply, non-nylon socks. They feel super cozy. I've heard all the hype about DK socks, so I'm excited to try them out for the first time and kind of see, get some opinions on it. It was also been fun to try a new kind of heel. Andrea Mowry does have a fingering version of this sock pattern, and I am gonna try that one out. I'd like to maybe do I have Mud Punch striping yarn, and I think I want to do her everyday sock in that self-striping yarn. It's nice because you start at the toe and then you knit up, and by starting at the toe, I'll be able to have the socks exactly match with choosing the same color to begin the striping. Yeah. This was the sock that I should not have casted on that I did. I was doing so good. I got from 6 down to 4 works in progress, but now I'm back up to 5. That's okay though. I've got this month now to wrap them up. 2 of those other works in progress are Christmas gifts, so they have to be done, which, good, I've got a deadline. So one of those, well, it's actually for after Christmas, but one of those is the sleeping suit, Selma sleeping suit by Petite Knit. I showed this last month and I had just done the beginning of the hat. But now, look at this. I've done the whole body. You knit the button holes as you go, and then I've started the leg. I just pooped out doing so much garter stitch back and forth. I rarely do this, but I had to put this away and start working on something else. That's why I ended up actually working on the other works in progress, which is a pair of socks that I'm giving for Christmas. I haven't made enough progress on that to show that this month. I'll show it next month, because next month it'll be done. Okay, alrighty. I mean, I'm a little surprised that this is the 6-month-old size. To me, this seems massive. It's 3 to 6 months. It is meant to be worn as outerwear, so it'll go on top of all the baby's other clothing. Like the baby will hopefully be able to wear like a little hat underneath here, which I think it'll fit. Funny enough, as I was mentioning my attention to detail, so these are supposed to be, the buttonholes are supposed to be 7 centimeters apart, each buttonhole. I managed to do the first one only, I think, 5 centimeters apart. I then continued to add one more row of garter for the next one, and then I realized that was still too short, so I ended up doing another extra row of garter for the next one. And then I kept it consistent at, you know, the 2 extra from the first one. But I realized since I had done them so close, I could actually fit in another buttonhole. So rather than having the 5 buttonholes that it's supposed to have, I have 6. I've really learned just to kind of adjust as I go. I mean, I also made a mistake in the bear paw socks. The bear paw socks, I ended up doing too many increases, I think it was, when doing the toe. So I had to do a decrease row. It's okay. I used the Turkish cast on, it was fun to learn about the Turkish cast on. Anyway, enough of that. I'm loving this wool. So this is the Barocco Ultra Wool. It's a worsted weight wool. It's 100% wool, Superwash. It's Peruvian. And it's soft, it's bouncy. It's washable for the new mom because it is in white. I think this is going to be a really beautiful little suit. And once I finish, I think I'm going to work on the socks before I move back to this. But this is a great project just for watching TV or when you don't want to think too much, because a lot of it's back and forth, and then I'm going to seam it up. And it's just really a lot of knitting. Like this was just straight. It's just knitting back and forth, back and forth. And I'm surprised by how much yarn this little sleeping suit is eating up. So it's gonna need 4 of these. This is the 3rd. I actually only purchased 3. And I'm curious if I'm gonna need the 4th. I think unfortunately I'm gonna need the 4th, but only like a couple meters worth. Like I would bet like maybe, you know, 5 or 6. Because I've used 2 now to do basically the hood and the body. But I think it's gonna require maybe this full one, and I bet you I can get to the 4th sleeve before I'm gonna need the 4th ball, which is too bad. But I was thinking I can make the Tin Can Knits beloved bonnet. I've made that for another baby and I absolutely loved it. I don't think I would do a matching bonnet for them in white. I think I'm gonna make, if I do it, we'll see how I do time-wise. I would do it in this blue, the Mohair Silk DK from Sweet Georgia. We'll see. I've got quite a bit of knitting to do. So this is going well. I'm loving how it's turning out. I'm gonna have to pick some buttons for this, which is always fun and stressful at the same time. It's fun because I love kind of, you know, trying to flex that creative side. It's stressful because I find buttons really do add something to the sweater, and it's, you know, you gotta make a good choice. Like these ones, they kind of add a little more fun and a little more flair. All right, well, I think that's almost everything I wanted to show today. Oh, actually, kidding. I ended up renting a book from the library, and then I purchased my first ever pattern book. I thought I'd just share both of those with you. Before that though, I wanted to just say, oh gosh, where was it? My mind. Oh, right. I think, so as I mentioned, I'm gonna finish those 2 Christmas projects and then finish the sock. So that's 3 of my 5 works in progress. And then I have another pair of socks that I need to wrap up. So my goal is to keep me accountable here, those 4 things done before we meet next week, as well as wrapping up. I have a couple more just little things like sewing on the buttons for a couple more projects. So I'm hoping I'm gonna spend the rest of this year just wrapping everything up, getting that stuff done. I might do a bit of a cast on at Christmas for a sweater, just because I've been dying to cast on a sweater for myself. And then hopefully I will only have the West Knits knit along shawl, which I've put aside and really would love to make some progress on. I know I didn't even show it this week, and that's because I haven't done any knitting on it. I would like to get everything else done so that I can just focus on that shawl and then also the sweater. Speaking of sweaters, I got 2 books for sweaters. I've been following the Knitting Traditions podcast. Every once in a while I kind of pop in to see what she's making. It's a wonderful podcast. And she mentioned this book, and I've actually come across this book a couple times now, mainly because there is a textured sweater that I really would love to knit. And all these sweaters are pretty wearable. They're all based around mohair. And it's this one. I really would love a cream sweater, and then also I love oversized sweaters, so roomy sweaters. And I love just the texture. So it is called the Guernsey Genzer. But I did purchase this book just for this pattern. I'm quite excited about the other patterns that are in this book though. They're very, very wearable, it seems. I'll just show, I don't know how well that's gonna show on the camera. The other one that, I think her name is Ingrid from Knitting Traditions. She is also making this sweater, which I also find quite pretty. It is a single strand of lace weight yarn though, and tiny, tiny needles, which has me a little scared. It is a little loose, but I think it's like 2.5 millimeter needles. And I knit so slowly that I think I would start this sweater and that's all I would do for the entire 2023. And I really would love to, I knit 2 sweaters in 2022, so I'm kind of hoping I can knit 3. I've really got my heart set on so many sweaters, and only 3 just sounds so sad, but I think it's realistic. I've got already 2 sweaters worth of yarn that I'm gonna knit, so. Anyways, this is the Jules Genzer. Okay, I think Genzer must be a word for sweater in Norwegian, because this is Sanda's garn is a Norwegian yarn. So, and part of this book is actually in Norwegian. I have no idea what it says. I think garnes must be the word for sweater, or Genzer, sorry, Genzer. But this one also kind of caught my eye. Anyways, very excited about this. I was happy I could get my hands on it. The other thing I did is, you know, the good old library. I rented this pattern book. This one actually was also from Knitting Traditions that I learned about this designer. She knit this one that's on the cover, whereas I would like to knit, one second here. They're all done with, and I would like to do this with the Lopi yarns, which are like those very rustic yarn. And I would really love to knit something as like an outerwear to wear when I walk my dog in the forest when it's like raining or snowing. And that is this sweater. That's the one I would like to knit. Here, I got a better photo of it. And the nice thing is this is a DK yarn. It actually is a bottom up, and then you have to steek for the armholes. So I'm dreaming about casting that on. I am slightly debating if I make this my Christmas cast on rather than the 2 sweaters that I have right now worth of yarn. I might actually knit 2 sweaters at once. This sweater doesn't really have a heck of a lot of color work, so a lot of it is just knitting, and then also doing the Caitlyn Hunter, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. It's the colorwork sweater that I've mentioned a million times that I'm very excited to knit. I think it also starts with a G. That's too bad. My mind is failing me. Maybe it'll just pop back in there really quick. Probably not. I'm just gonna see if I have it written down somewhere. It's the... Okay, I'm gonna have to just give up. It's hard to give up though. Guthrie. It did start with a G. Guthrie sweater. that's the sweater that I really would like to cast on next because I have all the yarn and good stuff for that. All right, I think that's everything that I want to talk about this month. Hope you're also enjoying the sweater weather and kind of getting cozy with your knits and having fun wearing them and enjoying them and getting ready for Christmas. All the best, and I'll see you on the 1st of the month next month. Hope you have a good one. Bye.